Hashtag Trending would like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers a complete networking stack, wired, wireless, and cellular in one integrated solution that's built for performance and scale. You can find them at meter.com/HTT. Welcome to Project Synapse, he said. What a week. Have you guys, I can't believe, we keep saying this, the roller coaster ride. I could not believe this week. I'm going, and I was reading what you were putting into the Discord channel, Marcel. And by the way,
Discord, boy, I'm there all the time. It's frightening.
This robot is absolutely astonishing. And in terms of the humanity and the movement and all of that stuff. And I'm presuming it's not like the Russian robot. They don't have somebody hiding in a suit this time.
No.
But this is a real robot.
It is clearly a robot. If you look, it's amazingly human-like, but it is clearly a robot. It's not somebody acting like a robot. This is a robot. And one of the things that makes it interesting is it will follow your gaze and like it makes eye contact and reacts to speech and stuff. It's really, but it really does it still has a lot of that uncanny valley sort of stuff. It's not like the Iron Robot that we saw 4 episodes ago or whatever we talked about, where the motion was so incredibly human-like that they had to cut away the artificial skin around the leg to show you that it was actually a robot. It doesn't have quite those fluid movements, but it's really close. And what they've done is they've made it about as human-like as any robot that I've ever seen in terms of the face and the skin and everything else. I don't want to call it creepy because I don't think it is, but it definitely ventures into that uncanny valley stuff. And of course, it looks like a fantasy robot AI girlfriend.
Yeah, no, that's very much there. Like I said, I was joking about the shot of the robot's butt and stuff like that. But this was made or at least advertised with a part fantasy piece in there. It has to be. Or maybe they just thought that was cool. Who cares? But the trick is, I don't get this. And the question I have and I'm still trying to figure it out, is how do you evaluate the things that you see? You've got the Optimus robots from Elon Musk, and they look like trash next to this robot that you showed me on the Discord. And they're nowhere near production. And then you see the ones, what is it? It's their company in Boston. I forget the name. And they've
Figure? Are you talking about? Well, there are a number of them. There's Figure is definitely one of the big ones. Load up a dishwasher and stuff like this.
Yeah, there was the one that you showed us probably 6 months ago, Marcel. That was, I think they were setting the table and. Yeah.
It's gotten better than that. There are a number. I should actually have do I have a channel on the Discord, which is specifically for robots? I think I do.
Yes.
I should start putting more robot stuff in there because there is some fascinating stuff happening.
But it's really impossible to figure out where we are with this. And, I looked at it and I looked at that robot and I was trying to translate because he was talking about yen. And if he's talking about Chinese yuan, then that thing costs about $180,000. If he's talking about Japanese yen, it costs about $8,000. So I'm trying to sort through so where do we come out at a realistic chance of buying one, and what price range are we going to come in? And because the Constant Wisdom was about $30,000 and we were about a year away, that doesn't appear.
And there are a number of companies that are aiming at that price range. They still are aiming at that price range. That's where, even if what they have to do at the beginning, and obviously this is me editorializing, I cannot say that I actually have any industry insight in this, but I think part of it is if you're going to introduce this in a big way in the consumer marketplace, you're going to have to take a hit at the beginning as we roll these things out.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, if there was something that was even, so you watch the robot unload the dishwasher and put things away, and it's not as fast as a human being can do it. But if I don't have to do it, I don't give a shit if that robot it takes twice as long as I do. Just let me get on with my day, and you take care of these things.
That part I find irrelevant. That now, and because one of you guys was talking to me about, and I was started to watch. This is actually useful. Was a robot that would snow blow your driveway. right?
Yes,
Those
that was
exist.
probably me because
Yeah.
I have a fantasy about. I have recurring fantasies. This is how I can tell that I'm getting old. I have recurring fantasies about robots clearing out my driveway and mowing my lawns.
Yeah, I know. You have these guys who make these robots that are supposed to be beautiful girls, and then there are guys like us who are going, man, could I get a lawnmower? Wouldn't
No,
that be cool?
but-
How about a snowblower? Yes.
Yes.
How about this winter? This winter, absolutely. I'm plucking my money down now. Like the Futurama meme that goes around is "Shut up and take my money."
Yeah.
Shut up and take my money. No, the fact is, a lot of these robots are being built for different things. Okay. Some of them are obviously right out of the gate meant to work in factories. Okay. That's what their whole thing. That's why you've got them on the BMW assembly plants and some other car assembly plants. You've got
Honda's got it
humanoid
too, I
robots.
think.
Yeah, exactly. They figured out, and of course, people would say, why do you use humanoid robots? Because they're flexible. You can do multiple things, whereas just a robotic arm, it only does one thing and it's only ever going to do one thing. Whereas the humanoid robot, the promise is it can do anything that a human being can do, except of course get tired. And other than, and of course we've got
Or go on strike.
Boston Dynamics. We've got the Boston Dynamic robot that can actually take out its own battery pack and replace its pack and then continue working. Like it just amazing shit. But so we're being marketed for different things. There is also the household market, and the household market is going to be freaking huge. As you guys know, my dad's been in the hospital. We talked about this a while ago, and he's been there for a month now. Okay. And it's a slow recovery. It's heartbreaking. Like he could be doing a lot better, but the hospitals are incredibly understaffed. There's one physiotherapist that's supposed to take care of everyone, and that person has 5 minutes a day. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but every time I'm there, I think to myself, have a freaking robot walking the halls, checking in on people every few minutes all day long. It's like you've got 50 people on a floor. You've got 4 people that are supposed to watch these 50 people. Put a robot in there to do these things. So and of course, if we're taking care of not just older people, but we're taking care of people with special needs, somebody who has some kind of disability or whatever that you need to take care of, somebody needs to be watching these people 24/7. We're running out of people to watch people 24/7. That is one of the great promises of the robots. And I have to say, it is one of the ones that I am watching like every freaking day. When can I have this person to watch the people I love?
But I don't get it even now. Sorry, John, do you want to jump in? You've been trying to talk.
No, I was just going to say that going back to the automotive thing too, that the nice thing about these robots too is you don't have to have 3 shifts of workers. They don't take breaks. They don't take lunches. They don't call in sick. That you can put them out there and let them run 24/7. So
dark factories.
Yeah.
But it's only once a year, Mr. Scrooge. Jeez. Yeah. No, but it's the idea of, first of all, the thing that frustrates me with healthcare, and it just drives me nuts, is that because it's not perfect, nobody's going to do anything.
Yeah.
You talk about having a robot go down the hall. My God, Marcel, you wrote a program for a simple Linux thing that would allow somebody to talk to an AI. So you've got a patient alone in their room who could actually have somebody on a screen they could talk to. You could have a RAG database that it was tied to, so it only gave them their case information or the things that were useful for them. And it could ask to talk to a nurse. Oh, I'm feeling a little pain. Oh, tell me more about that. Store that stuff and shoot the right and prioritize them for the nurse. Things they could do that they don't do because it's not perfect. If we had treated medicine like this in the 17 and 1800s, that because you couldn't magically cure everybody, you'd do nothing, or 1900s, we wouldn't have insulin, we wouldn't have vaccines, we wouldn't have anything. And by the way, and we're going back to that now. But it's just,
Thank you,
makes
President
me crazy. Yeah. No, but it makes me, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I don't care.
Same crowd of wackos.
Who hears that?
Oh, no, we're not talking politics in here.
We're
Stop
not talking.
Anyway.
Yes, just back away from the politics. Thank you, Marcel.
Away from the cliff edge, people.
Talked me back. Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing that it makes me crazy that we don't use the technology we have effectively. I keep hearing this. I heard this from a doctor here locally. I can't take notes using AI. You can't? I do.
Yeah.
And I'm using technical terms all the time. And it's a lot better than not taking notes. Like you're
Well,
saying,
and then
you're
there, and
telling me
then
you're
there's
working for 5 hours
Yeah.
a day after work. I'm not.
But even
Well, I
things
have-
like sharing information, like you go into the hospital, and I know we're talking medicine now, and I apologize for taking us down that road, but you go into the hospital, and this doesn't have anything to do with AI or robots here, by the way, but your doctor has your history, your information. You go into the hospital, and then they have to get permission, or they have to go through some rigmarole to contact your doctor so that they can share your medical information with the hospital to treat you. This is freaking insane in the
Yeah.
21st century.
My
And we've been trying to connect databases, medical databases for decades.
So this is what I mean. We got to do this massive thing. And we did a project for, I think I can talk about it, for one government in health, it was some of their health information. I'm not going to say which one it is, but if the taxpayers ever found out how much money they just burned on this for no results, there'd be a revolt. And this whole thing of, I go to my doctor's office and I've always wondered why I got a card in my wallet with a magnetic, with a chip on it.
Yeah.
I can't just hand him my card. He gives me my medical record. I put it into my wallet with a pin so that when I go to the hospital, I can hand him that, say, here's all my most recent medical records. We can't do that? Like my friend Doug, and he's recovered from it, but he had cancer and he's had to do regular blood tests. He still does. He literally had to drive to a hospital in Toronto because it was the place you could get your blood samples taken and analyzed. I went, they don't have needles in Waterloo? Like you can't go into any place, get your blood taken, run it through a machine, which is, I'm sure, what they do. I'm sure they have labs in Waterloo, but you're going to make somebody drive 100 kilometers and they have cancer and they're going to do that and drive back so that they can get their tests done. The healthcare system is run by, I don't know, but people who don't make a lot of sense. Let's just put it that way, because they can't cooperate.
When I used to work for a pharmaceutical company, we had the same issue. We always had this discussion about drug abuse. And why can't they share? Like, why can't there be a central repository at that time of what drugs have been prescribed to patients so that you don't get a patient going from hospital to hospital, getting prescriptions, or from doctor to doctor or clinic? It's all the same thing. All of this information should be available to any of the practitioners that need to treat a patient, or from my nephew's standpoint, a vet. The same thing applies.
Yeah. Anyway, rabbit hole to go down. But it is this idea that we're not looking at technology as something that actually has a meaningful outcome. We're back to looking at it as technology. Yeah. Going back to robots.
Go ahead.
I want one. No, but this is the reason why I want to keep track of this is because this affects my future. In X years, I will not be able to maintain this house. It's too much work. I don't know what X is, but I'm suspecting it's somewhere around 10 years. But who knows? Could be 20. It doesn't matter. So I'm looking at this going, wait a minute, a household robot would be a really useful thing. A shoveling snow, taking care of things. My God, just doing
fixing the generator.
Fixing the generator, doing
honestly,
that stuff.
$30,000. I am shut up and take my money. I'm there.
Yeah. I'll do a pre-buy.
Yeah.
But I can't anyway, it goes back through this whole thing that I think becomes more and more important as the theme for this week, which is, and that's why I started.
We have a theme?
Robots when we were talking about. We do. And that's understanding what is happening and how it's actually playing out into the future. It's so confusing, especially, like I said, the whole robot thing. You got 15 different companies putting out videos about their robots, dissimilar. You can't get actual information about what is actually going to roll out in the future. I don't understand why.
There's a few things there. One of them is that this is a technology that is developing. We're watching it develop is really what it comes down to. And the videos are very cool, but the videos are meant less to impress us the public and more to impress the people that are willing to throw money into the companies to let the development continue. You've got to generate buzz around a company to get money pouring in for these things. To me, that is one of the factors. And because a humanoid robot is such a complicated device, it's something that's going to have a lot of iterations. We're going to try different things, work on different systems, and at some point they're going to converge into something that is. I'm not saying that there will only be one vendor of these things. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that the technology is going to converge in the same way that we've been watching large language models converge recently. Oh, by the way, and just before we walk away from the medical thing, I just want to point out that both OpenAI and Anthropic in the last couple of weeks released a version of their models for healthcare specifically.
Yep.
Okay. So that convergence is starting to happen. And I mean, I know a lot of people who I would refer to as doomers, more doomers than I am, obviously. I'm a little tiny bit of an accelerationist, definitely a techno-optimist. But they will say things like, we didn't ask for any of this. And there's a part of me that goes, I'm glad that somebody went ahead and did it anyway. Because I didn't want to wait for somebody to approve these things for the technology and the development to happen. You remember that William Gibson quote? I think it's William Gibson. It's either William Gibson or I think it's William Gibson. But the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Okay. And I really feel that way a lot when I take a look at some of the things that are out there and I think, why don't we have these things yet? And we don't have these things yet because that's the way it works. And I've been excited about what's happened in AI in the last, let's call it 3 years since ChatGPT burst onto the scene. And part of it is because everything always moves so incredibly slowly at such a glacial pace that as a techno-optimist, I sit there and I go, for God's sakes, just get on with it. I know that these things are being developed out there, just let's get on with it. And people are getting on with it right now. I accept that there are dangers. I accept that there are caveats galore, but thank God shit is happening.
Be
Did I
careful
digress
what
too
you
much
ask
here?
for. Be careful what you ask for. You might just get it.
Yeah, I know.
But I want to go back to
meet
this
my
thing
friend
about
Pandora. Pandora, get over here. Let's have a chat.
Yeah. No, but I want to get back to this chasing the money. And this may be a really good insight that comes out of watching these robot videos. Because the same thing happened this week. I think it was 300 billion or was it $800 billion got dropped out of the market in the week. I think it was 800 by the end of the week. $800 billion of, I'm not going to say of value, I'm going to say of price came out of the market.
Yeah.
Because if it was value, it might have stayed
of
there.
Market capitalization, whatever hell that means.
Yes, whatever that is in there. Because everybody's chasing the money. This whole thing came out with, what is it? Claude bot, aka Open
Moltbot, aka Open Claw. Yeah. It's Open Claw now.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it
it's
is now?
Open Claw now, right? Okay, so we've got it. We can name for it, but it comes out, and I hope it wasn't that drove the market crazy. I hope it was the Anthropic announcements. I'm praying
it was actually the Anthropic announcements. It actually was. It was an Open Claw. I guarantee it.
Yeah. But anyway, so the market just plunges, and I'm looking at this going, guys, this is your robot video moment. It's not, this stuff from Anthropic is not going to replace SAP tomorrow. And it's not going to replace Salesforce tomorrow. And it's not going to replace any enterprise systems in the next 3 to 4 years. Why? And Marcel, no, I'm absolutely, I will take any bets on this. Why? It has nothing to do with technology. Has to do with people and process and adoption.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Nobody's going to install this in Germany to replace SAP for worldwide that they just spent $500 million doing. First of all, they're not going to go to their board and say, hey, you know that $500 million we blew? April Fool. I want to do AI. All of those unemployed people who make that pronouncement will join the ranks of the technology unemployed. So first of all, they're not going to admit it. Second of all, you're not going to build a foundation system like this. You're going to test this for years. And now in 3 to 5 years, is it possible to imagine a softwareless world or a world where we don't have ERPs?
On-demand software, more likely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But why is that giant flushing sound the market we have today? My comment was, if you're one of those investors and you sold in a panic yesterday, then you deserve what you got. If that was your investment manager, fire them because that was just, but we're chasing the daily money with something that is going to roll
but that's
out.
Because the market, that's because the stock market is not reality. The stock market is a Las Vegas casino. That's what the stock market is. It's not a reflection of reality. It's not a reflection of value. It's not a reflection of anything that, anything beyond where people with money gamble money in the hope of making more money. And that causes fluctuations of all sorts, which are based largely on emotion. It's like the person sitting at the stock machine going, that I know for a fact, if I pull this time, that's going to be the jackpot. This is going to be the one.
Yep.
There's no difference in what happens in the stock market. And I know I'm being dismissive of the whole project, but honestly, that's what's happening. It's a gambling den. That's what the stock market is. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think so. But John, I want to create some space for you to talk about this because you're still working, right? You're still in a corporation trying to absorb this stuff. No, but Marcel and we can say what we want because
who's going to fire us?
Yeah. As I say to
John,
people,
this is your chance to get fired, John.
Yeah, people put comments and say you're really stupid. You gave me bad advice on the podcast, and I take the Jon Stewart thing. Hey, the seats are free, man. But you're actually trying to absorb this in a company. What does it feel like to be you?
So first of all, I want to make a comment about the comment about, or the discussion about SAP, right? That AI is not going to come in and replace SAP. I remember when SAP first started to show its face in Canada, most of the printouts were all still in German. Even the big guys like SAP had growing pains, and it took them time to get to where they are today. AI is no different. I guarantee you there are people out there thinking we got to build something that's going to replace SAP or Salesforce and so forth using AI, but it's not going to happen overnight. And you don't want to be one of the early adopters because they do still have a lot of work to do in trying to sort things out. But one of the things, and I was at a conference this week, and one of the things that they talked about was everybody's talking about building AI acceptable use policies, right? So we'll write a policy and everybody's got to adhere to it. That's fine. Number one, nobody does. And number two, that's great if you've got a human. But when you start getting into things like agentic AI, how do you manage that? And a lot of these systems that they're coming out with are going to have agentic built in. And so they start to get more into AI governance. And it's not only governing what the humans are doing, but it's also governing what the agents are doing. It's treating an agent like a human that's sitting beside you. And that you need to be able to govern all of that. And so I think until they figure that part out and kind of wrap their heads around governing how AI is being used, I don't think, my personal take is I don't think you're going to see a huge uptake at the corporate level. Now, having said that, I also know companies that have gone hog wild and jumped in with both feet, even as far back as a year ago, with doing everything AI. To me, at this point, that's a mistake.
Yeah. Two things. One is I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm cynical about policies because I've seen so many of them. And
yes.
Next one, your AI policy is going to be written by an AI and nobody will read it anyway. I used to run the documentation for a big financial company.
Yep.
And in those days we had binders. And I had 30 binders on the credenza behind me. And you could blow the dust off those things in everybody's offices because nobody read them.
Yep.
So this whole policy thing is a bit of a rabbit hole or whatever you want to call it. I don't think people
absolutely
actually follow policy.
I can speak to that because I wrote an AI acceptable and responsible use policy for the company I'm at now. And I can tell you exactly how many people have read it because one of the things it says is that we only use Copilot right now, just because of from a security standpoint and so on. And the number of people that are, I want to use ChatGPT, or I'm trying to create agents. It specifically states in the policy that's not permitted. There's also an addendum in the policy that says if you're working with outside vendors, you must get them to incorporate this wording into their policy or into their contracts.
Yeah.
Oh, do we have that?
I have a tip for you from the world of music.
Yes.
Remember those guys it was a band, I forget who it is now, that's terrible, but they were used to insist that they had to have a bowl of M&Ms and a certain color was removed from that bowl. If that wasn't in their dressing room, they wouldn't play.
Yes.
And everybody went, oh my God.
Spinal
these guys
Tap. That was Spinal Tap, dude. That's Spinal Tap. These sandwiches.
No, not the movie. Not the movie. This was
bigger bread.
This was but this is a real band.
Oh, okay.
This was real terms of their contract. I'll get you the name of the band. I forget. It was a rock band, but they played a lot of stadiums through the Midwest, and they had a lot of effects. And the reason why they put that in their contract was to make sure people had read the contract.
Yes.
That was the whole point, because everybody got the contracts. Nobody read it. And if you got a lot of flash pots going around you on stage, don't ask me why I know, but I've been on stage with that stuff going off, and there's one in the wrong place, you can be hurt or deafened by it. So they put this into their contract, and they could instantly walk in and check to see whether people had read the contract.
Yep.
And everybody said, "Oh, you're being super."
By the way, that was Van Halen. That was Van Halen.
Was that Van Halen? Yeah.
That was Van Halen.
Yeah. Anyway, so that piece of it, that's what we should have in our policies. The equivalent of that, which is something that says, you need to come to my office and say the number 37.
Yep.
Or something like that. You need to send me an email with something that proves that you've read this policy. So when they come into your office and they ask this, you can say, you haven't read the policy. So, yes, I have.
So
I've read it thoroughly.
My son, who's at the University of Waterloo at the moment, has teachers who, he talked about one teacher in particular, will have in the instructions for the work that they're supposed to do, there'll be something like, there should be a mention, at least one mention of pineapple in the article, and pineapple should figure prominently in this discussion of whatever. Like, he'll put in some nonsensical thing, and he tells them this up front. Okay, there will be some nonsensical instruction for the AI to follow if you just feed in the requirements for the assignment. And if I see that come up, you get 0. As in, because you let the AI write your assignment, which is obvious because it's like the breakdown of the wave function under these mathematical conditions are directly related to how many pineapples are in the room.
Yeah.
This is how he tricks you, or he finds out that's the case. And obviously the Van Halen contract is exactly the same sort of thing. Let's make sure that you actually read the contract by virtue of the fact that the brown M&Ms better the hell not be in there.
Are you sure it's Van Halen?
According to ChatGPT, it's Van Halen.
Okay,
there you go.
I'm just, yeah. No,
then it must be correct.
Yeah, it has
I'm not
to be,
saying it's correct. I'm saying that I asked ChatGPT and ChatGPT said Van Halen.
Don't blame me, boss.
I am willing to admit that.
Yeah.
Marcel,
don't blame me, boss.
A good friend of mine once said that if you ask an AI a question, once it gives you the answer, ask it to verify its answer.
Yeah, I do.
Who was that person?
I don't know. Some host guy.
Some guy. Yeah. Okay. No, and this goes back to, we're being youngsters, but it really goes back to this whole thing of truth and how we get to the truth. And that was the thing this week. I know the news came out, and people who are listening to this may not have followed it as closely as we did, but it's been an explosive week for developments. We had that whole thing that led to Claude and Moltbot, and then
Claude Moltbot, because that's what a lobster does when it grows out of its shell, it molts. And then OpenClaw, because it moved into it was an open source project, and they were trying to, anyway. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be another name by next week. Yes,
I'm sure. And then, but it was really agents. And this is the question I wanted to ask you, Marcel, because you've probably been thinking about this more than anything. I have been too, but I'm really interested in your opinion, is why did that catch fire so much? The linking of agents, the idea that the information was stored or written to markdown document so that the thing appeared to remember things. They were connected, but do you know why that was so special?
Well, first of all, Markdown is the default format of IT. Markdown documents have been used to document open source projects of all kinds, like forever. So it's not surprising that would be the case. And if you take a look on GitHub, the README files, this is pre-AI models going out, that the READMEs are readmes.md. So they're marked down. So it's not surprising that's the case. The reason that this caught fire, aside from the fact that somebody is fueling that fire, somebody's always fueling these fires when something like this happens, especially at the speed that this took off. But the fantasy, and I'm not talking about the ones with the female humanoid robot of earlier, but the fantasy for a long time has been to have an artificially intelligent system that thinks ahead, like that thinks constantly, that considers your needs and acts proactively if it can to make sure that you get what you need when you need it and so forth. That's the holy grail. I want to be able to talk to a system that remembers my conversation, that understands me, that works with me in the way that I want to be worked with, that talks to me the way I want it to. And I want it to be able to do things on my behalf. So all of a sudden, this thing comes out. And remember, this guy gave the talk, Peter, I'm trying to remember his name.
Steinberg.
I was gonna butcher his name anyway, but he was in an interview where he was talking about everything that his Claude bot was doing, that he was calling it at the time. And I'm not sure that he anticipated that this would become an event, but he's talking about it and it's fun. And my Claude bot went out and did this, and it went and rewrote this thing because it knew, and it wanted to be able to talk to me. So it downloaded voices from 11 labs and created an interface where we could talk. This is all like insanely cool stuff. And as a major science fiction head, and let's face it, a lot of the people in IT and in the open source community and in AI, obviously, are all science fiction fans. We grew up on frickin' Star Trek. We want that future. We're actively working toward and looking for that future. So all of a sudden, you get like the first big hint. And to be clear, this is not the first attempt at a proactive AI by any stretch of the imagination. But this one looked new. This looked like something I can put in on my computer to operate in my environment, to remember what I want. It remembers past conversation. It writes all that down to these markdown files so that it can reference the things that we've talked about in the past. And it updates and it manipulates these things and so forth. This is the dream. Okay. Now, this dream in this case is fraught with danger. And John, what was the first thing? John, the day after this came out, I sent you a private message and I said, this is the stuff of nightmares for you here as a security guy. And even me, as excited as I am by this sort of stuff, I'm looking at this going, oh my God, this is awful. Now, but that doesn't change the fact that the idea behind it is awesome. Okay. Who doesn't want somebody who doesn't want like this master intelligence working 24/7 for you, making you money, taking care of things for you so you can go and hang out on the beach and drink mojitos? Like,
there's some amazing.
Of course it's going to take off.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, but it really caught fire, but embedded, I think, or based on, he knit together things that were all out there. And that was the thing that I was going at.
Tool use.
Yeah. So that was, but Claude Opus, 4.6 came out this week. A week ago, we had co-work on it. If I've got the Claude 4.6, it can run for about 2.5 hours solving problems for programs.
Well, days, if you've got honestly, if you've got the credits.
Yeah, but I think there are limits that they think that basically it can get to. And 2.5 hours of AI time is a lot of time. So that piece of it, it's working at that level. It's delivering at that level, nowhere near the excitement. Maybe it's the retail factor of this, and maybe you're right. It's the buzz. It's the mechanical Turk. It's the rabbit one of this stuff that came out.
It is. We all know about this whole idea of something going viral. Something going viral doesn't mean that it's fantastic. Doesn't mean that it's the best thing that ever happened. It's something that caught the attention of the community, and the community went nuts for it. The Opus 4.6, first of all, two big things were released this week. And interestingly enough, within an hour of each other.
Yeah.
And that was Anthropic released Claude Opus 4.6. And people were expecting Sonnet 5. Instead, they got Opus 4.6. which has a 1,000,000 token context window compared to, I believe it was 200,000 for their previous incarnation. So it can read, in theory, an entire code base into itself. Meanwhile, OpenAI released their version of ChatGPT Codex 5.3, and what it's got going for it, because it already had the big context window. I don't know if it was 1,000,000.
Did it?
Because
Was it at 1,000,000 for?
no, it wasn't. It was 1,000,000. It was Gemini 3 that had that.
Yeah,
CLI
Gemini
that
3 had 1,000,000. And the reason why this is
by the
important,
way,
just
I
if
have
anybody's,
serious.
but if anybody's listening to this, the reason why this
Anybody listening?
1,000,000 token context window is so important is when you get to big code or big projects or anything, even like I wanted to get my novel proofread, can't load a big piece of information. Even if they do hold it all in memory, it starts to degrade. And
Of course.
so the 1,000,000 token window, which by the way, we'll get to cost after a while because you're paying for that 1,000,000 tokens, but that came into 4.6. That's a fantastic technical achievement. No blah, you could tie a pork chop around its neck and the dog wouldn't play with it. It just wasn't that interesting.
How the hell did that come?
No. But then what was the big thing about 5.3? I thought I had
0.3. First of all, 5.3 is fast. Like it's, first of all, again, this is yesterday. Okay. So this is really early.
Yeah.
And every indication is that 5.3 is as capable as Opus at this point. So the gap on what the two are able to do has closed dramatically. Claude is still going to be the favorite because, first of all, both of them. Okay, I'm going to back up just for a second here, but because I wanted to get past the speed thing. So ChatGPT 5.3 is fast, like ridiculous. It's a speed demon. 25% faster, but 25% faster means it does things that Claude can do in 5 minutes and 2.5 minutes. It's like that. It makes a huge difference in terms of what's possible. So that's one thing. Both of these things are able to spawn sub-agents. Okay, so in the case of, let's use Claude as an example, you could say, I want you to create an agent, which is the one that will create the specifications for the project, whatever it is that we're trying to build here. I want it to basically create 3 employees. One of the employees is going to be the actual coder. The other one is going to be the one that verifies the code that gets checked out. And the third one is going to be the one that tries to find every critical fault and idea with it and then reports that back to the leader. And these things will all work together in the background, talking to each other, comparing notes. This is what ClaudeBot was promising, the agent that could go out there and pull in tools. And both of these new coding models, both from OpenAI and from Anthropic, are master tool users. Okay, they can pull in external tools to do what they need to do. And I have to admit that I've been going nuts here with these things. In particular, I have to admit Claude Code in the last couple of weeks or so, I've been going nuts with these things, building things with them. And I sent you a message, John, yesterday,
Yes.
which was, it's interesting that it doesn't feel so much this whole idea of vibe coding. You give instructions and then you walk away. It has become a conversation. Okay. You sit down, you start working on a project, and it's a conversation between you and your programmer. So you effectively become a manager of the project that you're trying to build. You don't just throw everything over at it. The big difference with these releases yesterday is you can turn yourself from the manager into the director or the AVP level and let Claude or let ChatGPT's Codex create their own team, manage their own teams, and then that manager answers to you. You're building up these levels. And the beauty about that, of course, is that it can work for longer because it's not just the one program working by itself. It's the one program that's handing it off to other agents and saying, you work on that part, you work on this part, we'll meet back in the middle, we'll compare notes, we'll make the changes. And here's a couple of really cool things. Both of them will do error correction. And again, this is early, but I was looking at somebody's report on this yesterday where they took it through some coding things and they found 0 hallucinations on a project that ran for an hour or something like that on both of them, like 0.
Wow.
Corrected its own errors, talked to its own internal agents, fixed everything that needed to be fixed. And when it was all done, there was a 0 error project that came out the other end. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's
You know,
amazing. It's
it-
But
impressive.
that was my point. It gets down to this sort of robot thing of the great video drives everybody, astonishes everybody. And this stuff, which is actually practical and important, just goes by, and there's a blog post on somewhere. And maybe that's just the way we have to accept
It's because it's not sexy. It's
Okay,
not
do you remember the other
visually
meme?
appealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Here's the classic meme. You've seen this one. It's been done 1,000 times, but it's the guy who's walking with his girlfriend, and this woman walks by in the red dress, and
Yeah.
he's turning around looking at her while his girlfriend looks at him in horror. What are you doing looking at that? Looking at the woman walking there. Shiny. We like shiny things, and
Yep.
robots are shiny things.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can say, look, this coding agent is really neat. It can do these things. It can spawn the multiple agents. It's self-correcting, blah, blah, blah. By the way, GPT 5.3 Codex wrote itself. So that's cool. It was like 5.2 created, 5.2 wrote 5.3, or as they put it, helped write itself. So that's, but anyway, but it's hard if you're like the general public, if you're just like somebody who is not swimming in AI code and stuff like this. You go on the AMI benchmarks, it went from 43% to 54%. And we all look at that and we go, oh, that's pretty damn cool. The average person goes and glaze over, but you see a robot walk by and it's shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is where it gets down to trying to figure out where you plan for the future and you try to deal with the future that's coming at you. For instance, the information, I totally get that you could say that 5.3, OpenAI's 5.3 was written by 5.2. So tell me why so many OpenAI developers were using Claude to write code. And to the point where Altman was really pissed about this, that Claude, that Anthropic said, sorry, you cannot use our Claude or whatever you want to call it. You can't use that for writing code if it's going to be a competitor's product. And both OpenAI and Microsoft are a little pissed about this. So if they really have all this great stuff, why are they so upset about it? This came in the Super Bowl ad, and I think that this was the funniest thing that happened this week was when Anthropic came out with their no ads ever, right? Super Bowl ad.
Yes.
And no, there's never going to be any ads. And Altman blew a gasket. I'd never seen him get like this. When Gemini came out, he congratulated them. He never tackled Elon Musk, who was out to kill him, out to end his company. He never tackled Elon Musk, but now he grabs Anthropic.
Oh, he went
and
after Elon.
No, never like this. Go back and look at it. Never like this.
No, but he went after him by releasing the emails that basically said,
yes,
Elon,
but he never demeaned them.
Yeah. Okay.
His comments were, oh, they're trying to take control of what you've got. Or we've got more people in Texas who are using ours for free than Anthropic.
Yeah. Okay. I agree that was petty. Yeah.
So it was but people betray themselves when they do that. And I'm starting to wonder how much trouble OpenAI is in. And I'm starting to wonder how much of 5.3 was written by 5.2 and how true that is. And the reason is, as you go through this, as your robot moments come up and you start to think this, the moment I'm watching for is not the connection of agents, because that was already happening in the background at Anthropic, and it was going to happen. It was going to happen at a better level. So I wasn't watching that. I'm watching for when AIs start to write new AI. To me, that is going to be that tipping point moment. And that is that when the models we have now are getting smarter and smarter, but when they can actually write the next level of AI, that's when the acceleration point happens. And by the way,
that's I'm not the only one who thinks that. Yeah, no, and I agree with you. And I think that this is already happening. It's not happening at the scale that we would call super intelligence takeoff by any stretch of the imagination, but it is happening in the fact that they're doing this. I want to address the whole, why is OpenAI using Claude? I would be surprised if all of these companies aren't using all of each other's models to stress test, to develop, to do whatever. It would, including Anthropic, by the way. I would be amazingly surprised if that wasn't the case. Okay, so that's thing one. Thing two, Anthropic, is a small player. It's very popular among people like us who are swimming in the technology, who are coding, who are stress testing systems and so forth. We like this stuff. But the average person, there's an AI company out there and it's called ChatGPT. They don't even know that it's OpenAI. They call it ChatGPT.
Exactly.
And ChatGPT is a verb for searching on the internet in the way that Google was a verb.
Yep.
I'm going to Google that. I'm going to ChatGPT that, or I'm going to look it up on ChatGPT. It has become the Kleenex of artificial intelligence. It's not facial tissue, it's Kleenex, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And meanwhile, we've got Google. Demis Hassabis was in an interview where he said, we have no intentions of putting ads. Like, bullshit. Oops, sorry. You have to bleep that out. He says, we're not going to have any ads. He's Google. He works for Google. Google is the champion of ads. Okay, maybe they don't have it in Gemini per se, but it's in YouTube. It's in the AI summaries that you look. It's in Google searches. It's in everything that Alphabet has their hands in. There are ads everywhere. To say we have no plans on putting ads in Gemini anytime soon is like saying, GM, well, we have no plans on putting wheels on cars anytime soon. Like, it's just there. It's part of your DNA, ads.
Anytime soon means we're not doing it today, but they will do it tomorrow.
Remember, Anthropic is a small player in this game. All right. They're a tiny player. And OpenAI has to do something because the whole world uses OpenAI. Alphabet subsidizes this stuff by the fact that they have ads coming out the wazoo. But OpenAI needs to come up with a way to do this because they have a plethora of free users out there who are accessing their service constantly. And the reason that Anthropic doesn't have to worry about that at the moment is because they're a tiny player used by a tiny group of people who all pay for the service.
Yeah, but and this was Sam Altman came up with this characterization. He said, they're a high-priced software for people who pay, who've got the money.
Well, now, there's nothing wrong with that.
I want to just, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I want to go back and repeat a story that you might all know. Back at, I think, the early 2000s, if you watched any TV show, you watched any Washington show or anything, they all pulled out this magic phone called the BlackBerry. It was the coolest thing out there.
Yep.
Everybody had one. And it was, and as a matter of fact, if you didn't have one, I used to go to meetings, and if everybody didn't have a BlackBerry clipped to their belt, like they were just nobody. And they were so cool. And this guy, Steve Jobs, came up with this Mickey Mouse phone that was barely held together at the time. He had 5 phones for the first demo. And he had this idea, all of your music here, take photos with a crappy camera, by the way, at the time. And it was profitable because it was sold as a high-end design product. Just saying. And why did the competitors collapse? They had to keep growing and growing. They had an engine to feed. They had a big company to feed. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Maybe the brand overcomes, or maybe just Google takes over the world. But I'm saying I wouldn't count Anthropic out. And this was the week when I actually sat there and said, they're going into healthcare. You just have to be better than open
and legal
healthcare.
services.
And legal services. They're going into places that make money instead of trying to borrow $100 billion from NVIDIA, who, by the way, Sam, just want to point this out to you, don't cash that check because Jensen may not be actually giving you $100 billion.
Jensen Huang also pointed out, however, first of all, I took delivery of a whole bunch of additional chips finally. Okay, so NVIDIA came through on that delivery of a lot of chips. And Jensen, in an interview, said, first of all, and I realize that these are weasel words, okay? And I understand that all these people talk in weasel words. I'm going to get that on the table right now. But he said, we never said $100 billion. We said up to $100 billion, okay?
So we'll sell you one.
But the fact is they delivered a whole pile of stuff. So all of a sudden, ChatGPT's ability to do inference went up dramatically a few days ago when they turned on 5.3, or yesterday when they turned on 5.3. All of a sudden, there wasn't this queue of waiting to happen. 2 days ago, while Anthropic was preparing 4.6, which everybody thought was going to be Sonnet 5. While that was happening, the system kept crashing all day long. I kept trying to work. I kept getting error 500s. I looked online. Hundreds of people, thousands of people are posting and saying, anybody else getting error 500s? I can't seem to connect. I can't seem to do any work today. So there was a day where the service was effectively unusable for a whole day while they were doing whatever they're doing in the background. On one hand, I get all of this, and these guys are all drama queens, okay? And I love some of these guys. I love some of what they're doing. They're entertaining to watch. They're entertaining to listen to. I love listening to Dario. But Dario, a year ago, put out this thing that said, it's all going to be sunshine and roses, machines of loving grace. Here we come to the post-World War III Star Trek future. Because remember, in Star Trek, World War III has to happen before we get into the Star Trek future. But I digress. And now, a week ago, he puts out this other essay, which basically says, oh man, unless things change dramatically, we are so screwed. It's like, what happened to the machines of loving grace from 8 months ago or something like this? Like, they're all drama queens, and they're all out there because they are the face of large corporations, and they have to keep putting themselves out there, and they have to be in the news, and they have to have video clips about them. And let's face it, we eat this stuff up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But for those people who are trying to make this work in business and plan, and I know this whole thing of people say, you can't have a 3-year strategy. Yeah, you have to. It may not pan out the way you want to have it work, but you don't hire somebody in my favorite line. You don't hire 9 women and have a baby in a month. You have to move at the speed of human beings. So if I want to start a new division, it's going to take me 3 to 6 months.
Or start a new baby.
Yeah, no, never mind. But if you're gonna start a new division, I got to hire people. So I've got to first get some leadership in there. And I always love this and who does this really well? Satya Nadella. I'm going to get a czar in here. I'm going to hire somebody to take care of quality. That's going to fix it all. Oh, thanks, Satya. Next month we'll be able to have no problems with implementing with our Windows patching because you hired a czar. No, this guy's going to start. He's got to get a staff. He's got to figure out a plan. Things in business move at the speed of humans right now. Maybe 8 years from now, when they find out that the CEO and the management was the easiest thing to replace with AI, which I think somebody's going to figure out one day. Forget the guy, the line worker and the customer service guy. You can get a strategy that's better than most CEOs, and you can get management that's better than many managers from an AI.
This is one of the things that I think is going to set companies apart from each other is you're going to have companies that are going to dive in head first, go hog wild with implementing AI everywhere without a strategy, without proper governance. And I think they're going to be the ones that are going to run into real problems. You're going to have other companies that are going to say, look, we need to get all our ducks in a row. We're not saying we're not going to use AI, but we're going to gradually implement AI within the organization, and we're going to do it right. I think
but if
those
you
are
live
the ones.
And die on this, yeah. But if you live and die on the stock market, John, you got to look like you're doing something. You're talking about a company that has the benefit of not dealing with that slot machine.
Yep,
We've dealt with this before, though, and we did come up with a solution to it. And we've dealt with it a couple of times, cloud being one.
Yep.
And packaged software being another. And when I knew that packaged software was going to take over custom code, when people said, we want to first ask ourselves why we can't do this with a package.
Yep.
That was when you started to have those meetings. Forget about people selling, I think packaged software is the greatest thing. I think we've got to have our own code. When somebody stood up and said, tell me why I can't do this with a package, that's what I want to know. We got to that same point with cloud. Yep. Everybody was talking about cloud was great, cloud was terrible. Everybody had their own religion. And then we started to have management meetings where people would say, we're cloud first. Doesn't mean we won't host it ourselves, but tell me why I can't do it in the cloud. And I think That's the mentality that bridges what you're saying, Marcel. You have to accept you live in a real world where people want sizzle. They don't want steak. They want sizzle. That's what they buy. And you've got to deal with the fact that you have organizations to run. But I think the sane question is you should be asking yourself, why can't I do this with AI? And if that's the way you're phrasing the question, you're going to come up with a lot better answers, I think. It's not buying one religion or another. It's asking yourself, we know we're going there in the future. Why can't I do it now? Because you're going to make some mistakes. What's the cost of the mistakes?
Yep.
Is it worse than what we've got now? No. Then let's try that. We'll get bruised. Because the other thing is, it goes back to my medical thing. And it's not just medical. It's also corporate. If it can't do everything, then it can't do anything. And that's fallacious logic. We all need to make mistakes. We need to bruise our knees. We don't want to admit it. I still remember when I was at Ernst & Young, people were starting this sort of philosophy that says, and it was the early run fast and break things. This is not the only, this current thing we have in software, run fast and break things. There was a big thing that came out, and somebody from I had coached the head of Ernst & Young Canada, who came out, and people were saying, we need to take some chances in business, because they were all accountants. They want to advance their strategy. We need to take some chances, go out there and make mistakes. And I credited our most senior partner at that time for coming out and saying, look, I know it's fashionable for me to say you need to make mistakes and learn. I'd rather you didn't make mistakes. We're accountants. And I went, oh my God, he's being honest. And I think that's what we need, is the frankness to say, you're going to make mistakes. Don't do that with their accounting. Don't do that with their tax return. But if you're going to add up maybe expense forms where you're going to be $100 out or something like that, and big deal, who cares? It's not material. Play with it.
Exactly. And I think you have to go in with your eyes wide open, with the understanding and the expectation that, as you said, Jim, you're going to make mistakes. You need to be able to be prepared for that and plan for it. But I also think that, as you said, you have to make sure that you're playing with it in the right area of your business, what I would call non-critical areas of your business. We're a financial institution. We shouldn't be using AI right now to be doing anything with people's accounts.
And one of the toughest things, of course, is trying to make sure that people don't bring in their AIs. I'm sure that you have those issues as well, John, but
shadow
it's
AI.
like, well, you're only supposed to use the one that the company uses, but they've got it on their phone. Okay, so they'll take whatever happens on their phone and they'll just email that to themselves and then use it in whatever it is they're working with. So trying to get people to follow those rules is difficult when they already have access to other tools, and trying to convince them don't use those tools.
That's where the governance comes in.
But also, do you really care if somebody's going to write a procedure document and they use ChatGPT and you use Copilot? Do you really care?
Thin edge of the wedge, though, right?
I don't. No, I don't buy that, because I think people are going to do it anyway.
For companies like John's, every edge is a thin edge of the wedge, and you don't want to allow that.
It becomes a slippery slope that if somebody uses it to write a job description, if I do it for a job description. Yeah, but
under that you become Dr. No, and what do? They hide it from you. They're doing it anyway. They're just hiding it.
But the issue is, we're not saying, as an example for us, we're not saying you can't use AI. We're just saying you have to use Copilot.
That's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Sorry, but and it's just not going to work. They're off in their house using ChatGPT. Trust me, I know it. How do I know it?
And they'll use whatever they're comfortable. Yeah, and they'll use whatever they're comfortable with.
You have to have rules that say
that's where the governance comes in.
If you cross this line, we're all adults. It's like expenses.
Yep.
We trust you. I'm just telling you where the borders are. If you come into and I think that was my idea for working with these agents. I know people are going to try and they're going to play with these things. I believe that companies should be putting together labs where people
Yes.
can go down and play. I think they should invest some money in some Mac Minis, put them together and say, you can go into this room. It's not connected. It's connected to an artificial internet. It is not plugged into anything out there. Play your heart's content. And by the way, we've set up something. One of our guys set up something. You want to show you how fast your home machine will get hacked and destroyed. Run that one first. I think and go down to the room and play. Do what you want. But you connect this to my network and we will have a serious chat.
We'll show you the door.
Yeah. No, so I think that's where we need to be, is to accept reality and do it where the risks are and be adults and not worry about the fact that people aren't going to always listen to us, because they're not. They never do. But there are limits. Like I said, I was in accounting. You're in a financial institution. I've done financial institutions. If anybody had touched our bond algorithms for pricing with untested code, I'd have killed them and fired what was left. Why?
Yeah, and I worked at a sysadmin back in the days when Miss Frizzle could have been my driver. Take chances, make mistakes, get messy. I miss those days.
Yeah, but in some places, those were good things. Yeah, you learned a lot.
Yep.
And
okay, no, finish, and then I want to show you something.
I was just going to say, in the early days, we all sat together, the operators, the programmers, everybody, we all worked together. We barely had passwords on our machines. I confess that's probably not a good thing to do. And we put together code that ran companies in weeks. Then the auditors came in and said, you have to have segregation of duties, and you have to have this, and you have to have that. And we slowed down to a crawl. What we could do in a week, we can now do in 9 months. And then we called it waterfall, which was even better. And then somebody came back and said, we should try this agile thing. What's an agile thing? Oh, you all work together.
Crazy.
And you have manageable things that you can accomplish in a short period of time. Wow.
You know what? Like the man had a lot of faults, not the least of which was being a MAGA wingnut. Okay. But the creator of Dilbert, Scott Adams, actually pretty much pinned corporate life down perfectly. It's this week we're implementing this technique. Next week we're implementing this one. I miss the early days of Dilbert. But anyway, you remember a few minutes ago, we're talking about how some of these ideas are viral, how they catch your attention and so forth. I want to show you a picture. Okay. I want you to look at the picture. Okay. It's from
Remember,
the 1800s.
we're an audio podcast. So
I'm aware of that, but we're going to describe it.
Okay.
We're going to describe it. And somebody who's looking at this on YouTube can share in the wonder of this. This has gone viral. Okay. This is a picture for a painting from the 1800s. And it's by a guy named Ferdinand George Waltmuller. And do you see the image now on the screen?
Yep.
Okay. There's a young woman walking down a path in this verdant field with hills in the background and stuff like this. She's wearing a dress and she's got this thing on her head. What is she doing? Look at it. What's interesting about this picture?
She got a phone in her hand?
Very good. How about you, John?
I said she's texting.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting about this is everybody's going nuts and they're going like, this is a 150-year-old painting. And the woman is walking down this path with a cell phone in her hands. Okay? So this is what catches people's attention and sends an image to go viral or an idea to go viral. But when you look at it and you actually stop to think about it for a second, it's from the 1800s. What is she most likely doing at this point? So step outside of, oh my God, she's texting as she's walking. What is actually happening?
Reading a book? No, the book's too small.
She's carrying a little prayer book on her way to church.
Oh my God,
okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so that's actually what's happening. She's carrying a little prayer book. She's on her way to church or on her way from church or whatever, but she's carrying this little prayer book. And that's what is actually depicted in the picture. But of course, when we look at it through modern eyes, okay, this painting that nobody has seen for 125 years, nobody's been paying attention to, all of a sudden comes to the forefront and is, my God, this is time-traveling woman who was painted in 150 years ago, and she's walking and she's texting as she's walking, because this is what it looks like today. You're walking with your hands like this, and you're texting as you're
hanging down and not
looking.
paying attention.
Bingo! Bingo! Isn't that wild?
Yeah. And this is being used as proof of time travel now.
This woman was time traveling.
If it's not, I've missed the meme, but if it isn't, I'm going to be putting it out there. and go, this is proof. I'm going to start a conspiracy theory.
Wild.
That's
It
So
is.
when you were
wild.
talking, so while you were talking about the cell phone, you were talking about Steve Jobs with the iPhone and the Blackberries and stuff like that. I'm going, oh, I have to remember to do this before we wrap up the
Yeah.
show because this is so cool.
Well, and it's been an interesting discussion, a wandering one, but I think there was a theme to it that I really wanted to explore today. I'm not sure we got the answers, but we certainly raised a lot of questions. And that is, how do we guide ourselves through this time when everything is just coming at you so fast, where there are all these hype things,
Yeah.
where the markets can crash, where all of these, the insanity of the speed and all of the distractions are out there. How do you actually start to function and deal with this as in a business or in your life? Or because I think my fear right now, and I know we don't do politics on the show, but I think that we have to accept the fact that there's political tension in the world. Let's just put it at that. And it's stressing people. And then there's the technological stress that we're under. And then everything moving at the speed where it's all an emergency. It's all urgent. It's so much. The poet Wordsworth, actually, in the Romantic poets, when they thought, and going back to your idea, they thought the Romantic poets in the 1700s were just too intense. And the poet Wordsworth, he coined this phrase, savage torpor, which was just an insane assault on your senses. And we are living that right now. And the question is, how do we stay sane? My one piece that I come out of it that I think makes sense is to really just remember that there's history. And I think that introduce that picture is a great idea, Marcel. Remember that there's history. Remember that we can learn from the past. It may be different, but we can learn from it. And the second thing is, when we learn from it, we can find some things to really use. And I think one of them, from my mind, is if you're looking at AI right now, ask yourself the same question that we learned to ask. Why shouldn't I use it? And don't try and stomp it down, because that's not going to work. But just ask yourself, why shouldn't you use it? It's a valid question.
And I have another suggestion. And this is how I handle these rapid changes and the turmoil in the world and so forth. Number one, I drink alcohol.
Number two, he drinks excessively.
This is from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. As your doctor, I advise you to drink heavily. Thank you, Marcel. John, what's your suggestion?
Number two, and this one is actually a little tiny bit more serious. But every day, or at least I try for 3 or 4 times a week, I pull aside 10 minutes and I meditate. And I do this, so I practice mindfulness meditation, and I try to do this every day, but I try to make sure that 3 or 4 times a week at least, I pull aside 10 minutes and I sit in quiet meditation. And sometimes you need to be alone with your thoughts to just examine the fact that things are what they are, and the moment that you're with it in is right now, and you deal with it. You deal with it by being mindful of the situation. So those 2 things are real. I drink and I meditate. John.
Do you do them at the same
so before
time?
John comes in, my favorite meme is a picture of a guy with a smile, and it says, "This is me not responding to somebody's comments on social media."
John.
I don't know. I think from a sanity standpoint for me is it's not meditation, but it's similar, that I'll sit there, and one of my favorite things to do when I was a kid was to go canoeing. And so I put myself back in that place on early in the morning where the water is like glass, out canoeing, and it's just me with nature. And it helps me to shed all the shit that's gone on during the day and to level set things again.
Touch grass.
And I drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not while canoeing, though.
Yeah.
Are we wrapping at this point?
This has been a Canada wildlife moment. Yeah. Was that Tom Thompson's canoe I went by? As a person who lives on a lake with a canoe, I cannot disagree with you. Live long
Live
and
long
prosper.
and prosper,
Live long and
folks.
prosper.
Thanks for listening. We're Project Synapse. I'm back with the tech news on Monday morning. Once again, we'd like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you the podcast. Meter delivers full stack networking infrastructure, wired, wireless, and cellular to leading enterprises. Working with their partners, Meter designs, deploys, and manages everything required to get performant, reliable, and secure connectivity into a space. They design the hardware, the firmware, they build the software, manage deployments, they run support. It's an integrated solution that scales from branch offices, warehouses, and large campuses all the way to data centers. You can book a demo now at meter.com/HTT. That's METER.com/HTT.